My name is Edgie Huggins, and my mother was Hester Grays. That's her maiden name. And I had two husbands I married twice. First one was Roper, and the next one was a Huggins. And my mother was my grandmother, and I can remember her. I was small, but I can remember her. I don't remember the age. But my great-great-grandma, she was a slave. I can remember her. I was small, but I can remember her so well, you know. And she was, we missed her one afternoon and couldn't find her. And when they found her overnight, the next morning, she was in a briar patch. And so her clothes was torn off over her. And when they found her, they brought her back home. And I can remember that when I was small, but I can remember it very, very well, very well. And my mother, she lived with me until she passed, you know. And I just, I don't feel like I'm that old, but getting around by not doing anything. When you're housekeeping, you know you have something you'll be doing all the time. And here I can't get out and go places like most of you used to do, you know, and all that. I'm just sitting, and they're waiting on me like a baby. So I thank God that I lived to see 95 years old, on my 96. And God has been good to me. He has blessed me all of these years. And I tried to live the life that I desired to do every day. If it's nothing, I like to help people. I like children and older people. I'd rather be with older people when I was growing up than I did the young. And I really, really miss that now because I can't get around to them like I used to. And I have two daughters and one son, which this is Lily Mae. Call her Betty. Her name is Betty, but she changed it to, no, her name is Lily Mae, right? Betty, and we call her Lily Mae.
After my first mother.
And the other one, the older daughter, she lived next door, Letha. And my son, he lives on Brooklyn, on Selma 1, Conway. Growing up as well, my parents was farmers, you know. And I grew up when I got old enough, I had to help my mother, those work to keep the other part of the children, you know, because I was the oldest one. And we was farmers. Sharecropping, you call it. I know you all don't know anything about this, the sharecropping. All the kids went to school except me. I went a little while. I ended up in the 5th grade, but God has blessed me. And I went to school after that at night, and then I worked in the daytime to help my father and my mother take care of the other kids. So I went to school at night, and when I finished that, my mother was sick, and I retired. I retired at 62 because of my mother. They wanted to put her in a nursing home, and I didn't want her to go in a nursing home. I felt like if my mom go in a nursing home, she wouldn't live long, you know. So then I started school, and I was a seamstress. I sewed for churches and made hats. I went to school for millinery hats. I finished that. And from then on, that's what I was doing, my life of work, plus in the church, you know. But I thank God for all that I have done and the love that I have gotten from all people. I just love people, and I love to do things for people. Every morning I wake up, I ask the Lord to help me, to help someone else. If it's nothing but just say how are you, or I love you, or what can I do for you? Any little thing to make them feel good, you know. And that's what I really, really enjoy. I really enjoy that. And so I came down here, so I joined the church down the road there, and I'm enjoying that. So I don't know how long I'll be here, but I'm trying to make it in. I'm doing the thing, trying to do right, trying to help others, trying to love everybody. Whatever they do for me, do to me, I love them, you know. So far, so good, I say. So far, so good. And I'm a crying person. I cry for anything. I cry, and I'm a nervous person, you know, very nervous. But thank God as well as it is. I did some of every type of work you can say that a man do. On the farm, I plowed, you know, plowed, I stacked hay like they used to have the wagon, you know, and they had that hay, one up on the, they was packing it down. I was one of those that did that. And we had a farm. After I got married, we had a farm, and I got married, and we farmed, me and my husband. So he would work at night, and I would take care of the cotton. Every day I'd pick 300 pounds of cotton. And tobacco, I would grade tobacco. I'd do all that by myself to keep from hiring people so that we would have the money, you know, because a lot of times when you was farming like that, they have these little stores, and you have to get the money from there to take care of the house, you know. And then when harvest time, sometimes you don't have anything because you used it up, you know, in the during the year for food. And although we farm and had a lot of things like chickens and hogs and all of that, and I did about everything you can say a man would do on a farm, you know. And so I worked in the day, and my husband worked at night, and we made it good. We had a night, made it good, yeah. So what else can I think of? Yeah, we used to pick briar, call them briar. You don't know anything about briar? Well, we used to pick that, and up the railroad, that's mostly where they grew at, on the railroad. And then in the woods, we would go in the woods and pick the called huckleberry at that time, you know. And we pick them. My dad, he would take them to Muller's, that's where we was at then, Muller's, and sell them, you know. And eggs, all of that, we would take to Muller's and sell. We didn't have no special day to go to town. Only one day, and that was Saturday. On Saturday, you could see all of us on a wagon, on this wagon going to town. When we get to town, we don't have no money to spend, just get some ice cream, you know, or something like that. I think I remember going to a movie one time in my growing up life, you know, one time. And so you name it, I can say I did it. And it wasn't me, it's the Lord. He just gave me that strength to take care of my mother, help take care of her and my father. I was the oldest one in the family, and we were out of 6 children. Every one of them has passed except me. I'm the only one in the family now that's living, you know. My sister just passed about a month ago, and she was the last one, so I'm the only one in the family that's living. Thank God for that, you know. But sometimes I feel like it's my time. I just want to give up. But I am be here until God said, come home. Yeah. So what else can I say? I came up in the church. I did everything in that teaching school, Sunday school, singing on the choir. I have some pictures in there that we took in the church. Now that was my really thing that I love to do in church, and help people, the sick people, you know, and the older one. Moved down here, and I was just, I call myself leaving home. From New York, I left home. I call that my home because I've seen so many people grow up, and the second generation, and I help all of those, you know. So I'm proud of the thing that I have done, and God has blessed me to do them, and they blessed me to help other people, you know, do good to them. So, but so far as school, education, I didn't have the education because I couldn't go to school to help my mom and my dad until I got grown, and then if I got married, and then we farmed. From that, I went to night school, and that's the way I got my education. Really didn't have that much to help nobody, but the one that did, they did. But there wasn't too much you could have done in that time. They call tobacco and corn and things. It don't grow now like it was then. The corn was tall, and you call it, the leaves on the corn, when it got ripe, you know, that means it got ripe where you can strip it, and you call that pulling fodder. And you pull that fodder and you tie it up, and then you hang it on the stalk. And we sold that. That was for sale, you know. And so picking cotton, I would pick the 300 pounds of cotton every day to keep from hiring anybody to that we had to pay while my husband was working at night. And I picked a bale. My goal was a bale a week. So I would get that bale every week, bale of cotton. And so after harvest time, whenever we saw the harvest time, we didn't have to pay out as much money, you know, because I did it on our own. And while he was working to help take care of other things. So I was blessed there. Raise chicken. I go in the woods and cut down trees and make my chicken coop, you call it. You ever seen a chicken coop? A chicken coop, I'd make that and drag those trees, you know, in the yard and cut them and make my chicken coop, and then make the wire fence around. We had billy goats. And that's another thing, billy goat I didn't like. You hang your clothes out on the line, the billy goat will go there and pull them off. Yeah, and grading tobacco, that was, you all know something about tobacco. You know something about the tobacco, but yeah, but in my small, there's not too much I can remember. The only thing I can remember plain that happened, that was my great-great-great-grandma when she got lost in the woods. Her name was Peggy Campbell, but we called her Mom. And I can remember her plain, my grandma, mother. And I have her picture, and she's more like an Indian, you know, and she had long hair. She's my great-great-great-grandma. Yeah. She's over 100. I don't know how many over 100, but she was over 100. I can remember because it was such a sad time when we couldn't find her. And I remember her well. She was over 100. Her name was Peggy. So every another thing, Christmas light. Now Christmas is big, but long in that time, our Christmas was when you would go to different houses and you can smell the cake and the fruit. Christmas time, we would get maybe a apple and orange. And then we get out and we go into different houses hollering, Christmas gift, Christmas gift. And they come to the door with maybe a slice of cake, an apple and an orange, a stick of candy. And we go running through the woods again because I was raised up in the woods to the next house, and the same thing happened there. So when we get around and go back home, we had a whole lot of stuff, you know. But nowadays, that don't mean nothing, you know. Yeah. Whipping, like being bad, I never was bad, like most kids are. I had one whipping in my life, one. And that whipping was because my mom sent me to another house, a friend had the bar called a broom, a scouring broom. And the scouring broom was made out of shuck from the corn. And you put it in a tub of water and let it get soft. And then you tie it up, and they had a stick, a long stick, and made a hole in that stick, and we put those corn, pull it through. It had a lot of holes, and we pull it through there and make it a scouring broom, you call it. And then we take that and we scour the house, you know. And I went and I stayed too long. My mom whipped me for it, you know. That's the only whipping I ever made. And it just, so much I went through, and I can't remember all of it now. You know. Yeah, get out on your knees, scrubbing the floor. I've done that. I've seen my mom get out of the bed. That's before I was big enough to do it. Get out of bed, she's sick, get out of the bed and get her some water and get down on that floor on her knees and scrub the floor with her hand. It was hard. I came up hard, you know. After Hoover's time, things started getting better. After Hoover's time, yeah, and got better. And school better. All the kids could go to school, you know, in a more decent place. The only thing we had were the lamps, and these lamps had we call them, well, you could even use a piece of, I've seen my mother use a piece of rag, and about that wide. And they put it in there, you have to put the oil in there. And that's how we got our light, you know. Sometimes we have 2 and 3 in certain places where you have to have bright light, you know. And we went from that to candles. We had candles, but we didn't use much candles, most of that lamp. And the ladder, you call them, you hang those up, or you could hang them up. I think they still could use that now, I've seen them now. You hang that around that, maybe the porch, around the house or whatever, for you could see, you know. I didn't play, that's what I'm. And when I got big enough to play and do things, I didn't ever do it. When I got married, I didn't ever. My first boyfriend was away, and when we moved to Mullins, I was little, but when you moved to Mullins, they called him and told him that there's a new girl. I was 15 then. There's a new girl moved in town, and I was meet him at church. So he was with his grandmama in North Carolina. But when he heard that and came home, went to the church and asked the usher that he wanted to speak to me. And when she came out and asked me, and I said, no, I don't know anyone. And she said, come on, said, my name is Edgie. That N stands for Nora. Edgie, come on, Edgie. So I went, and this little man, he came out, little boy, and had on a woolly suit, navy blue, and he introduced himself to me and said, you're gonna be my wife. And I said, oh no. He said, yes. And when I got my letter and they had your name, Edgie moving in town, he said, I went to sleep and I kicked the window pane out. They had these little hall room, they call it, you know. And that was in the 40s. That was in the 40s. And so sure enough, he asked me, could he walk me home? And I said no. When church got out, I ran. And my brother went home and told my mom that I was acting like a wild girl. And from that on, I was just like an old person, like the young people out playing, walking out in the afternoon. I'm sitting on the porch with my mom. And then you had to, just like now, you don't, most of the children don't ask the boyfriend. In other words, the boyfriend don't ask the mom, the parents, for your company, but they had, in my time, you had to ask for your company, just like you asked my mom and my daddy, and if they said yes, and then I could go with them. So they said yes. And okay, he went back to North Carolina, and he come to see me every time he come home, but yet and still I wasn't associating with the younger people, you know, I just associated with the older people. And so finally we got married, and got married in my yard, Mama's yard, you know. I came from church, and all the congregation came to the house, and I got married out in the yard. Well, he passed in 50. So then that's when I went to New York. I got started because otherwise I had talked with him and he tell me what he wanted before he passed. And I said, oh, Jenna, you just talking those static talk. You ain't gonna. He said, no. Said, I might be gone anytime. But we didn't know he was sick, you know. He was overweight and had heart problem. But doctor, I can remember the doctor's name was Dr. Robinson in Mullins. And he had told the doctors not to tell the family. And that's the way he passed. And when he passed, now that was a shock to me. When he passed, he got up that morning and he says, Edgie, I said, what you gonna do today? I said, nothing. Why? He said, I'm going to see your mother. I want to go see your mother. So I said, okay. I'm always ready to go see Mom. And so we went to see Mom. He told me that his feet was cold all night. And that's why he wanted to go see my mom. He told my mom, she said, pull your shoes off. And we had those big heater. And so he pulled his shoes off. He said, no, Miss Swanson said that won't help any. And he stayed about 10 minutes, then he was ready to go. So we came on back to Mother's and got some oranges and came on when my girlfriend was a little sick, and I said, John L., I said, stop by and let me see how my girlfriend, Isabel, was doing. So he stopped, and we went in, and she was complaining about her neighbor, what he had did to her, and the mailman had brought a package and had to put it in her box, and she didn't like that, and she was carrying on. So my husband told her, said, Isabel said, if anybody do you a bad deed, you do them a good one. If they give you rock, a stone, you give them bread. And when he said that, his head went back and he died right like that. And from that, I just, I don't know, I walked out in the highway for the car to kill me. But they came and got me. And that was one of the biggest accidents I've had, you know, and I was young. And I prayed, I said, I'd never get married no more. I prayed to God, I just had to get that off of me. That's all I could do was just cry. And I can remember the bush that I stood up to, called a gum bush. And I stood up to that bush and I caught a hold of one of the limbs and I started praying. And when I prayed, something fell off me just like I had a heavy load sitting on my head. And something just fell off of me, and from that on, I was free of that worration, you know. And then I stayed single 13 years. Said I'd never marry no more, but I did. The Lord sent me another good husband. So I was blessed all through my life in that way with people, you know. We had fish fry and we had a thing you call box supper. And this box supper would be at the church, you know. And the young people, I said, like me, my boyfriend, he would I'd make up my box and we'd have like fried chicken and just common thing in that box, but it was food. And they'd take it to the church and people would come and they would raffle off the boxes, like when they say Edgie Huggins. It's like a shoebox we had the food in. And they're supposed to bid on that, someone, you know, bid on that. Maybe 2 or 3 of them might bid, but the one that go the highest, that's the one got the box. So my boyfriend, he got my box, you know. And that's why we raise money all together. We go through that every week. We'd have that somebody's house, mostly at church, you know. And by us having things from the farm, you know, raising chicken and hogs and things like that, we had that you could make a nice dinner, you know, fried chicken or whatever, you know, and make cakes now and then. And we do that because we had cows, plenty of butter. You had to churn the butter, you called churning it. You know, put it in a thing, and then they had that pallet, and then you just sit there and churn that. So we could make boxes, plenty of boxes, with the chicken, the butter, the eggs, and we also made flour, you know. So we could make these boxes, and they were a big help to the people, you know. Boy, money was money then. I made a dress, my first dress I made cost me 15 cents. The material 5 cents a yard, and it took 15 cents to get 3 yards of material. And at that time, me and my girlfriend, we went and got us 3 yards of material. Your house was so high under there that you could almost walk under the house, you know. And we had to keep under the house just like you did the yard. We would go in and sweep under the house. So that's where we went, and we cut out these skirts in the top and we made a mess out of the first one. So we went back and got another yard. And we stood under that house with the lamp under there, not the lamp, but the ladder underneath the house. We cut that dress out, and I've been sewing ever since. I was sewing everything, but I got into the house, and I'm into the hats. The reason the hat, my mom sewed also, and she would take cardboard, you know, the slim one that you could bend, she'd take the cardboard and she'd make the hats for the kids, like Easter and Children's Day, you call it. And she would make all these dresses for and little hats for the kids for Children's Day, they call it. I remember my mom having this pile on the bed, and I think that's where I got some of mine from, you know. And so I started from there, and from there on, I made most all of my clothes. I started sewing for other people. But things were so cheap then, you know, because we couldn't have it if it wasn't, because we didn't have anything, just that farm and, you know, everybody helping each other, you know. So I went to night school, and then I went to school for making hats. Now that's my thing, is sewing and making hats.